The Philippines is set to file another diplomatic protest against China. This comes after a recent incident over Scarborough Shoal, where a Chinese Navy helicopter tailed and flew as close as 3 meters above a Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources aircraft. The National Maritime Council condemned the unprofessional and reckless maneuvers of the Chinese military aircraft. It emphasized that such actions violate international norms on airmanship and flight safety. Beijing, however, defended its actions, claiming that the Philippine aircraft illegally intruded into its airspace and violated its sovereignty. The Chinese government also accused the Philippines of spreading false narratives, a claim strongly refuted by the Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore Jay Tarriela. Now, joining us now on Morning Matters is Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore Jay Tarriela. Welcome to the show. Magandang umaga.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen, at magandang umaga sa mga taga-subaybay mo, and congratulations dito sa morning show.
Ay, maraming salamat. Okay, let's talk about this incident that happened February 18. Can you talk to us more about the dangerous maneuvers conducted by the PLA Navy chopper and help us understand the gravity of the situation? Gaano kalapit, gaano kadelikado, and is this the first time that this kind of incident occurred?
Well, the BFAR aircraft, nang dumating ito sa airspace ng Bajo de Masinloc, ang PLA Navy helicopter immediately approached them, and for the entire 40 minutes na nasa territorial airspace sila ng Bajo de Masinloc, ang helicopter na to ay patuloy na gumilid-gilid sa kanila. And there are two instances na nag-carry out siya ng dangerous maneuver. The first one was the one that we saw from the video, na it came close as near as 3 meters or barely 10 feet. Pupunta siya sa gilid nitong bakpak, sa port side, and then eventually umibabaw pa sa aircraft. And then the second time na nag-approach siya is etong distance na to, na 10 meters. So obviously and evidently, the PLA Navy helicopter never really hesitated to carry out this dangerous maneuver. They disregarded the safety of the aircraft and its passengers, knowing for a fact na ang ginagawa natin dito is legitimate MDA flight because this falls within our territorial airspace dito sa Bajo de Masinloc.
Okay, similar to what happens over at sea, we do know that radio challenges happen before that close encounter. In this case, did radio challenges happen? Because we saw a report with a pilot saying, you are flying too close, you are very dangerous. So meron po bang naging ganun na exchange?
Yes, the BFAR pilot immediately informed the PLA Navy helicopter pilot na ang ginagawa nilang maneuver, getting closer to the aircraft, is dangerous to the Philippine aircraft. And yet they ignored this and they keep on getting closer sa BFAR aircraft natin.
So in short, nagkakarinigan po sila?
Yes, they have established communication between the helicopter and even the PLA Navy warship na kung saan nanggaling itong PLA Navy helicopter.
How many radio challenges happened before that very, very close encounter?
I'm sorry, Gretchen, but I don't have the exact number of the radio challenges and the radio responses ng ating BFAR pilot.
At that point, how close were they to the vicinity of Bajo de Masinloc? Were they over it?
They are over the Bajo de Masinloc Shoal. That's actually the territorial airspace of the Philippine government.
Okay. You said that this disregarded international aviation safety norms. Let's get into the technicalities a bit. Ano po ba pag sa ganito yung ideal separation between two aircraft when you talk about international standards? We do know that one aircraft is off a fixed wing and another one has a rotor wing. So magkaiba po yan ng ano. Pero ano po yung sinusunod madalas? Tsaka yung boundaries mo nun?
Yeah, obviously in this kind of two different aircraft, the helicopter and the fixed wing, ito yung aircraft naman natin, they're not supposed to come close to each other. There is a certain distance that they need to follow because as what you can recall, sa nakaraang insidente sa Washington, this involves a fixed wing and also a rotary aircraft, helicopter. So there's a regulated distance between these two types of aircraft because you wouldn't know kung ang helicopter kasi is more maneuverable compared with the fixed wing, no? And that has also been the challenge dito sa piloto natin, no, ng BFAR. Because some are asking bakit hindi daw kasi lumayo itong piloto ng BFAR gayong alam niya namang lumalapit yung helicopter. Well, the dilemma of our BFAR pilot is that he cannot anticipate where the Chinese pilot will be going. It's either he will go up or pupunta sa ilalim or gigilid lang sa pakpak niya. And that is the reason why we have established regulation about keeping distance between the rotor aircraft and the fixed wing.
I did notice on your Twitter account that the video or material that you posted was from a reporter, Camille Elemia. I mean, who was on board the BFAR aircraft and what were they doing there?
Well, there are Coast Guard personnel on board and BFAR personnel as well, since this is a BFAR aircraft. And we also invited some of the photojournalists. I think it's important for us to once again involve the media, our media friends, no? Because nitong mga nakaraang araw when we started, publishing itong incursion ng China sa ating coast sa Zambales, some of the Chinese trolls are saying that here we go again, we're doing propaganda because it's only us who's taking the videos and photos. So what we did right now is to bring the media photojournalists on board the BFAR aircraft for them to capture the images and videos ng Chinese Coast Guard off the coast of Zambales. But what had happened is ito pa, no? At least nakuhaan ito ng ating mga media friends to show the world and to show the Filipino people that the People's Republic of China is blatantly violating international law and regulations. And they do not care about the safety of the Filipino crew and ordinary civilian aircraft.
I ask this because I do remember with this incident when a chopper harassed Filipino scientists over Sandy Cay at the other side of the West Philippine Sea. But doon kasi may malapit na military base yung China. Dito, medyo malayo. Ano? Saan kaya ang maaaring pinanggalingan nung kanilang chopper?
Well, there's a possibility na ito yung nakita ng ating mga kasama sa media, no? Because of their big lens. They were able to capture a distantly located PLA Navy warship, no? At the PLA Navy 502. At the same time, ito rin naman yung warship na nag-challenge din sa aircraft natin. So there's a high chance, no, na itong PLA Navy helicopter na to came from one of those warships that were challenging the BFAR aircraft when we were doing the MDA flight.
Well, it seems that with what is happening over Scarborough Shoal, that China is hell-bent on staking their territory in this area. How do we continue to defend our claim? Ano po ang balak po natin given how much of a stronghold they're trying to make over this fort?
No, Gretchen, without giving any operational details of our plans, one thing is clear, no, that despite of the harassment, despite of power projection of the PLA Navy and even the China Coast Guard, they started the year by deploying their China Coast Guard monster ship, and until now they are deploying a lot of Coast Guard vessels off the coast of Zambales and also in Bajo de Masinloc. But one thing is certain, no? We're not going to stop carrying out and asserting our position in the West Philippine Sea. Despite of our smaller vessels and the lesser number of Coast Guard vessels, ang ating pong komandante, Admiral Ronnie Hilgavan, has expressed his commitment to the President that we're still going to keep on pushing further the China Coast Guard off the coast of Zambales. And the same thing with BFAR. Despite of this kind of harassment from the PLA Navy helicopter, I don't think that this will prevent the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources in carrying out another MDA flight.
Well, Commodore, we do know that once these actions start, these dangerous maneuvers, they have a tendency of repeating. For example, the water cannoning, the laser pointing, and other harassment over the West Philippine Sea. How do we keep our pilots safe? Because we do know that, just this is a razor-thin line that they're treading here.
Well, Gretchen, every time we deploy our whether Coast Guard skippers ng ating mga barko, Coast Guard pilots and BFAR pilots, we always ensure that these are the best pilots and best skippers that we're going to deploy, especially in those areas na masasabi nating escalatory talaga ang response ng China. The main reason why we're doing this is to ensure that no accident or no disaster will ever happen despite of the unlawful bullying of the Chinese government. And the skills of the pilot of the BFAR nitong nakaraang MDA flight clearly showed how good he is as a pilot for such accident to happen despite of this dangerous maneuvering of the PLA Navy helicopter.
Commodore, punta naman tayo sa ibang topic. We do know that you were at the hearing the other day, the hearing on fake news over at the Congress, and you had an exchange with Congressman Marcoleta. Ang unang tanong ko ay, nakita ba kayo sa hallway? Nagkabatian ba kayo?
Alam mo, Gretchen, I was supposed to join that MDA flight. Kaya lang napatawag nga ako sa Kongreso because of the TRICOM hearing. And nagkaroon kami ng paliwanagan ni Congressman Marcoleta. I think his main concern then was tinawag ko daw siyang traidor. Pero everything is clear already. I know that Honorable Marcoleta was also one of your guests. And he really explained yung salitang tinawag ko daw siyang traitor. Since everything is clear already, after that, he approached me, we shake hands, and we clarified na nothing's personal, and I didn't call him traitor.
Okay. So where do you think that he got the sense that you did?
I think it's because of some of the comments of the netizens or trolls or whoever. But my public posting on X and different social media platforms, you're going to check it. Wala naman talaga akong sinabing traitor against Congressman Marcoleta.
In a sense, he kind of also fell for fake news.
Well, fake news or comments siguro, no? I would rather say na nabasa niya siguro yung comments ng mga tao and he thought na na-attribute sa sinabi ko yun.
Well, Commodore, we actually had Congressman Marcoleta over at the show the other day, and he was explaining his statement on the West Philippine Sea. In a sense, hindi naman po mali yung sinabi niya, di po ba, na West Philippine Sea is not yet recognized in international maps. It is not yet there. In fact, he said dapat i-file ito sa IHO, and that there is a need to educate Filipinos about the real situation over at our seas.
Well, that was his statement in your show. But my response on his first statements in last February 10 in the TRICOM meeting, this was a response when he said na gawa-gawa lang natin to. Right? So he has some technical basis, the technicality of it. But for somebody to argue na gawa-gawa lang natin ang West Philippine Sea, I don't think that is appropriate. But eventually, I think Congressman Marcoleta already highlighted the fact that that's not what he literally meant. He was saying na ito exclusive economic zone pa rin with or without a name. But again, I wouldn't agree with him na sabihin with or without a name. Kung kinikilala talaga nating atin ito, there's no reason for us to hesitate not to call it West Philippine Sea. Secondly, how would the world support our position in calling it West Philippine Sea kung tayo mismo hindi natin siya tatawaging West Philippine Sea? Before the world recognize that this is West Philippine Sea, we should first keep on calling it as such.
And actually, that is not just rhetoric. It is part of the process. Even AO29, that officially called the seas West Philippine Sea, recognized this process of first adopting it locally and then proposing to the IHO to have it officially changed. Last I checked, we had 9 proposals. Do you have an update as to what the status is of those 9 proposals?
I'm sorry, Gretchen. I don't have the the updates about the 9 proposals that NAMRIA together with some agencies that we submitted in IH.
Yung NAMRIA maps po natin, meron na po ba tayong plano doon? Kailan po lalabas yung bagong NAMRIA maps according to the 2 new laws?
I think the NAMRIA is still working on this. They are just finalizing some of the things that would not, harm our diplomatic relations with some of our neighbors. But of course, the NAMRIA, for those who are claiming na ang NAMRIA ay hirap na hirap i-define ang baseline, hirap na hirap. I don't think that such difficulty is the reason. We just have to to come up with a map na talagang diplomatically sensible.
All right. I think Congressman Marcoleta does invite us to look into the technicalities of this a little bit deeper. But speaking of educating people about the real situation of the West Philippine Sea, do you think he had a point about it? Sabi niya, paulit-ulit niya sinasabi na we fall for fake news. Ito yung sinispread ng mga vloggers na fake news na West Philippine Sea. Actually, hindi ko nakuha masyado kung ano po yung fake news that he was referring to. But don't you think that he had a point about educating when we talk about territorial seas, when we talk about EEZ, yung mga salitang ginagamit natin para malaman talaga ng mga tao yung tunay na lagay?
Well, first of all, that's the main objective of the transparency efforts of the National Task Force West Philippine Sea. It's not just about exposing Chinese aggressive action, but the NTF-WPS, under the leadership of General Eduardo Año, have extended an extra mile to educate the Filipino youth, to engage the local government leaders. We have LGU caravan, we have university caravan, we engage the students. We gave away comic book to educate the Filipino people about UNCLOS, the Arbitral Award, and even the position of the Philippine government when it comes to the West Philippine Sea. Even without Congressman Marcoleta calling out to educate the Filipino people, that has been one of the premise of the transparency effort. Secondly, yung sinabing we need to educate kasi fake news ang Pilipino pagdating sa West Philippine Sea. I don't think that the Philippine government is making fake news in our own advantage. What we are propagating are factual narrative. These are all anchored with facts and also in accordance with the international law.
All right, thank you so much for that, for providing context to what happened over at Bajo de Masinloc and also the West Philippine Sea. That was a Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore Jay Tarriela, on Morning Matters today.
Thank you.